Welcome back to another episode of the Goonery. Alongside me, per usual, we got Brandon Cauley Beans. Happy to be here. We got an interesting show for us today. Big ruling in college athletics now allowing student athletes to make money off their name, image, and likeness. Long time coming. Then we got some baseball talk, whether with Josh Donaldson and the White Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals and their current direction. So, Brandon, how you doing? First and foremost.
I'm doing well, man. Can't complain. Well, I will be complaining later in the show, but other than that, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's the life of a sports fan. I feel you. That was me last week. But like I mentioned, the name, image, and likeness. That's a mouthful. It's been passed allowing all NCAA athletes to profit off themselves now. Who would have thought that it would have taken this long? To be completely honest, I feel good for them. I have friends back at school who are athletes, and going to a Big Ten school, obviously, hopefully they're going to be able to make some money for themselves instead of working while playing a sport and going to school. Free up little time for them, because in reality, being a student at a big university while playing a Division I sport is almost like two jobs in and of itself. I mean, what you're required to do as a student athlete, granted, you're getting free tuition. I get both sides of the argument, but God, I feel good for these college kids now.
This is a long time coming, and you can. This is going back to the days of guys like Reggie Bush and other guys facing sanctions because of NCAA stupid rules of why they can't accept gifts and whatnot. Because if we're going to use Reggie Bush as the perfect example, he was the biggest thing in Southern California when he was in college. And you can say the same thing about Matt Leinart, and you can say the same thing about Carson Palmer. This is something that is a game changer because now there is an incentive to play. And now with guys that have been major names in college, and right now there may not be that many big names in college football, college basketball at the moment. But knowing that this is something that a lot of kids have been looking forward to, and they don't have to having these things, that's a very, very big deal because now they don't have like this puppet on their back just looking after them, thinking that they're gonna get a sanction, they're gonna get the school a sanction or anything like that. And truthfully, it's weird because I know there's a lot of schools that is already doing this stuff under the books, and I think there's probably the NCAA saying, well, we're probably gonna give them a break because they're a big school, we need them to sell tickets and sell whatever. But if really think about it, the biggest winner in all of this is college because this brings up more money for scholarships and a lot of I'm missing the word here, but there's a lot of things that's going to be available that's for colleges, and I think that's the most important thing, especially going through a pandemic where everybody lost a tons of money. This is major for college sports, and I'm happy. I even though Bo Nix got a sponsorship, it's still something very, very good for college sports, and I'm very, very happy for these kids.
Bo Nix, though, before I move on to what I was going to say, talk about a name who just does not live up, an athlete who doesn't live up to how cool his name is. I mean, 5 letters, starting quarterback at an SEC school as a true freshman. Great name, horrible quarterback. But I've been wondering since it's become official with the ruling. Do you think we're going to start seeing athletes who are a few years into the league starting to come out and admit to how much money they made while in college, or do you think they're going to kind of keep that to themselves? Because personally, I think we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see any smaller names in any of the professional leagues, but I think we're going to see some big people come out and say that they were taking money under the table from boosters. And honestly, a name who I would not be surprised who came out and said something would be Joe Burrow.
1,000%, I can see it because right now they're not in a position where if they say something, they're gonna get their school in trouble. They're gonna get themselves in trouble. All that is said and done. Those rules are out the window. Where if there is an investigation into things like this, that they can charge him with something. Well, not really charge, but you know what I mean. It's the NCAA doesn't have any authority over this now. So if players want to come out with it, I'm here for it, because you know how many crazy stories we're gonna get from players getting money from this booster and that booster. I'm here for all that stuff. But one thing that I do want to see, and this was tweeted about all day from different different routes. Reggie Bush, who shamelessly got his Heisman taken away, give him his Heisman back and make things right. Because with this ruling, that should be a thing of the past, and you should do the right thing. And of course, this one hits home for me. Put that Fab Five banner back in the rafters, because if you want to talk about the first real like school players that got done dirty, they are the very first, and they were extremely popular. And there was a question on Twitter, if this ruling was brought into effect years and years and years before, who would have benefited more? Easy answers like Tim Tebow or Reggie Bush or maybe even Vince Young. Fab Five would have made bank off their name because they were popular and they were controversial. And like Eric Bischoff said once, I think it was the title of his book, Controversy Creates Cash. So if you want to make everything right, put them rafters back up.
Fab Five, by far, I would argue the coolest college sports team of all time, from top to bottom, just by far the coolest. Even if you don't like Michigan, you appreciated how freaking cool that team was. And so, speaking of Reggie Bush, though, circling back a little bit, I saw a tweet earlier today from Joe Pompliano. I'm not sure if you know who that is, but he tweeted that estimates today were that if Reggie Bush were to benefit off his name, image, and likeness, he would have made in between $4 and $6 million annually while he was at USC. And he had his Heisman stripped for accepting $300,000 under the table.
That is insane.
And do you want to know what I think they should do if they're not going to give him the Heisman back, which everyone knows Reggie Bush still won the Heisman. Yeah, yes, we all know that. Mm-hmm. They're going to bring back NCAA football, the video game. Put Reggie Bush on the cover. Yeah, for the first one back. Honestly,
if you really think about it, for the people that have been enjoying college football until they ended in 2013, technically, like, think about the guys that you remember playing college football on PlayStation 2, Xbox. You had Tim Tebow, you had Reggie Bush, you had Vince Young, you even had Garrett Wolfe. I mean, those were guys that you wanted to play with. And personally, my favorite college football game of all time is NCAA 07, which featured Reggie Bush. Mm-hmm. If you want to make everything right with him, the guy that made you a lot of money, he made you a crap ton of money, you put him back on the cover, you give him his Heisman, you give him everything you wanted because he made y'all the most money. And everyone knows that NCAA loves money, but they just never wanted to share it. Now they have no choice. So they have to make things right with every party involved. And even if, you want to pay back Miami for something, or you want to pay back USC for the other sanctions that they had, or even Ohio State, Maurice Claret, make things right. And the stigma of NCAA being a bad organization will go away in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think too that this new thing is going to allow college basketball, we're going to see a lot less one and dones, I think. And I think that we're going to see, obviously the NBA kind of pressured the NCAA a little bit when they allowed guys to go straight out of high school to the G League and then enter the draft the following year after 1 year in the G League. I think we're going to see, not that we saw it, we're seeing a ton of that anyways. I think we're going to see less and less of it now. If you're able to go to college, granted, if you're going to a Division I program, I don't know how much school you're going to be blunt. And I get that completely. Now you're able to make money off of it, and you don't feel bad because you're able to make money from who you want to make money from. You can make deals, you can leverage yourself with who you want to leverage yourself with, and you create your own brand while making money instead of just being Money Manziel and signing autographs for, like, Manziel came out a couple months ago. I saw something where he signed 10,000 autographs one day for $500. The days of that are gone. The days
Yep.
of that are gone. You're going to have agents now. These kids are going to be better off in the long run.
So the one thing I will disagree is the college basketball, because I think that the culture of one and done is just like so deeply embedded with college basketball that I don't think it will go away. Now, I do think there'll still be an opt out thing that will go on with players, because if you're in a situation where you're one of the highly touted college basketball players in the on planet Earth, and you're still on a bad team, remember, you got your bread already. The main goal for a lot of these players is to get to the league. And let's be honest about something. A lot of these guys came from nothing. So if they get that little bit of compensation and they're playing on a bad team, they're saying, okay, I got my money. Why am I still here? Because regardless, it doesn't matter. You made a commitment to play for a college, but guess what? Coaches leave all the time, and they made a commitment to all the players that they recruited. So let's get that out the way. So if they wanted to make a decision where they said, I got my money and I want to go to the next level already, and I'm going to opt out for the season, by all means, because this is the goal for a lot of these players. And I'm a player first guy. I don't give a damn about these organizations, because the organizations don't give a damn about the players. So if they want to make the decision, by all means, go ahead. They're going to take scrutiny for it because it's like, okay, you got your money. Why can't you play? But if you are in a situation where you can't live off your likeness past the NBA and you get hurt or something, and then what? You're going to be just another G League player who's making nothing. And he has to work 10 times harder to get to the league, because Lord knows it's hard to get from the G League to the NBA, or even in the starting five in the NBA. So by all means, if they want to do that, go right ahead, because I'm telling you, there's no one that's going to have your back. NCAA has no choice but to do this now. This is a court ruling. They can't do nothing about that. So yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just happy the NCAA is moving into the right direction. But speaking of someone going in the wrong direction, I'm going to start out with Josh Donaldson and the Minnesota Twins. So my Chicago White Sox just ended up 3-game sweep of the Twins, and Sox were stumbling the past 10, 15 days or so. I mean, the injuries have finally started to catch up with them. They weren't scoring any runs whatsoever. They called up Gavin Sheets from the minor leagues. He was a first baseman, now playing right field and left-handed bat, which the Sox have been lacking, and gave their offense a shot in the arm. Twins are now in fourth place in the AL Central, 14 and a half back from the Sox in first, and had a negative 14 run differential with the Sox in this 3-game series. So the Sox, they got fired up, and that all started after Josh Donaldson hit a 2-run homer, fourth pitch of the game, first game of the series off Lucas Giolito. After crossing home plate, said it's not sticky anymore. It's not sticky anymore. I get talking shit. I get it. And Giolito has been a guy in the past where people have questioned it, and I'm not gonna. Everyone was using it, but Giolito is still a very good pitcher in my opinion. He's one of the guys who have embraced analytics the most across the league. Completely fixed himself after being the worst starter in baseball in 2018. But the quote from after the game from Giolito was about as ornery as I've ever seen. Not sure if you saw the clip at all or saw the quote, but if anyone listening didn't, he said, yeah, I saw after the fact. This is about Donaldson. He's a fucking pest. That's kind of a classless move. If you're going to talk shit to my face. Don't go across home plate and do that. Just come to me. And I've never seen that out of him before, which was kind of crazy. But what followed up next with Donaldson was his Zoom session the next day, where he said that he confronted Giolito in the parking lot that night and said, if you want to say something, say it to my face. And Giolito didn't say anything. First and foremost, let's start here. The opposing team and the home team are not going to be meeting each other in the parking lot at
There's
any
no way.
No, I mean, it just that does not happen. First and foremost. Secondly, Giolito and Giolito's dad. So Giolito's dad is pretty active with Sox fans on Twitter. It's actually kind of cool. He came out and said that he talked to Lucas that morning about like what had happened, And he said that didn't happen at all. Donaldson saw Lucas Giolito after the game, apparently apologized and complimented the Sox on their success this year so far. So Josh Donaldson and that mullet with those shitty highlights, who, I mean, I can't stand the guy. He's a guy who's benefited. I'm not going to say he's a cheater, but if you look at his stats before his MVP season, he is, there's something a little fishy going on there. And he plays in a lineup with Nelson Cruz. So Nelson Cruz hits right behind him. So if you're not okay with cheaters, you shouldn't be playing for the Twins.
So where do I start with this? So Josh Donaldson in the point of his career where he has an MVP and he's gotten to the ALCS, never won a World Series, and truthfully hasn't come close, even though the Blue Jays went to ALCS about 1 or 2 times, I believe. I think it was just once. But he's at the point of his career where I think he just wants his numbers and he wants his money. Because let's be clear about something. Already seeing the fraud that he is for making up a fake ass story about him approaching Giolito in the parking lot. Don't you think that your teammates use the same sticky stuff that you're trashing Giolito for? So you want to make yourself a heel with not only the White Sox or anyone else in the AL Central or maybe across the league, but you're doing it with your own team as well. So, dude, I get it. You're a hitter first, and truthfully, from these comments, you seem like you're a you guy first. Because regardless of how you feel about it, it may help you win in the long run. Because if you can't pitch, you can't win. So right now, the Twins are in a bad spot, but they might be even worse because of this ruling that's coming down. But you don't care about that because you want to protect the integrity of the game. While everybody's doing it, but you want to protect the integrity of the game. Cool. But also, let me throw numbers. So since the whole comment about the hands aren't sticky no more, they have given up 20 runs. 20. They was just in the series with the White Sox. It was a 3-game before. It was 3-game set, right?
3-game set.
3-game set. And after that, and that was the first winning home run he hit off of Giolito, correct?
Yep.
That was so 20 runs after that. That's a joke. You look stupid now because I'm not saying the sticky stuff is the end all be all for the pitcher's success, but it has a lot to do with it. And now you're seeing that it's going to affect your teams. You may want to, rally up the troops and apologize to them because you look stupid now.
Yeah, and speaking of pitchers everywhere using sticky stuff, Kenta Maeda, the starter of the game where this happened for the Twins, he had the lowest RPM on his four-seam fastball that he's had in his entire career of any start. So RPM is a big indication of people saying they're using sticky stuff, and they explain the drop. Giolito's had dropped like 2% or something like that after it was called out. So I mean that's a drop, but I don't think that that's too noticeable to be honest. I mean Giolito still is a 3.84, I believe, ERA on the year. Not great, but it's for him, but it's still very good across the league, I would say. But Maeda, who is, I don't know, probably 35 at this point, throws about a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. If you're having the lowest RPM on your straight four-seam fastball with little to no movement, you're in trouble.
Yep.
And the Twins are in a very bad spot. And it's just going to be interesting to see how serious this gets across the league, because now we're seeing guys have temper tantrums that they're getting checked. You're seeing position players getting checked now. And then you have guys who are just willingly like, okay, I get it, it's part of the rule. And then the first person who's been popped is Hector Santiago, who is just career journeyman reliever who had been on the Sox before. And to be honest, those are the guys who I think that you're going to see getting popped the most, because those are the guys, just if you're a reliever who's mid-30s, never been able to stick around anywhere, probably like a 4.5, 5 career ERA guy out of the pen, you're doing whatever you can to get that competitive edge to try and stay in town because say you get DFA, there's no guarantee you're getting picked up by anyone.
Yep. It's a nasty game right now, and truthfully, it looks bad on baseball, and and that's why I don't mind guys like Sergio Romo like basically stripping down in front of everybody, like saying like I ain't got nothing on me, because and now these umpires are making it exactly what they want, an umpire show. They always want to be the star of the show, so now you're gonna embarrass them for uh, for basically them accusing you, and truthfully I don't mind it. And I think more of what you saw in Max Scherzer and Joe Girardi, I think it's gonna happen a lot more. But I do think they need to find something where they're not checking guys 3 times out of a game, because that slows up the game. That's gonna make people frustrated. Like baseball fans don't want to see this crap. I sure as hell don't want to see it, because it's embarrassing. And not only for this rule to come down in the middle of the season, but the fact that you're checking someone 3 times in a game is ridiculous. It is so ridiculous, especially with all the other changes in MLB and all this. No one's trying to see this stuff, man. You're not in a position where you can do new things and think it's going to attract. Like, yeah, it might be cool to look up on YouTube later if you missed it. Joe Girardi and Max Scherzer and Kevin Long going at it or whatever. But for baseball in general, it's not good. It's not good at all. This stuff should not be happening. They should have waited to the end of the season, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, embarrassing is really the only real way to put it. And it's ridiculous because in my opinion right now, you have as exciting of players across the league as there's ever been, whether it's Otani, Acuna, Tatis Jr., Tim Anderson, I mean, Jazz Chisholm down in Miami. I mean, you just have guys who are very animated now, very just I don't even know how to describe them. They're just different. They're different from what we've seen from baseball players in the past. They're not afraid to have fun. Is that a good way to put it? I would say. And
Oh, 100%.
and fans were starting to, at least on social media from what I've seen, starting to come around in baseball a little bit. I felt like starting to be like, oh, okay, I could get into this. This is exciting. And now you just have people clowning Major League Baseball for slowing the game down even more, seeing the players just get even more mad. And I can't wait to see how this ends up with collective bargaining agreement negotiations this offseason to see how
It's
this
gonna get
how
ugly.
this affects things. Yep, this is going to be very, very interesting. But Sox are in a good place heading into the break. We have games with Detroit coming up, the Twins again, and then finish out in Baltimore. So I'm feeling good. Feeling good about heading into the break. Eloy Jimenez is supposed to be coming back after the break, supposedly very early. So that's incredible. Luis Robert, he resumed baseball activities. And I just want to give a special shout out to Jake Berger, White Sox 2016 first round draft pick, third baseman. He looks like he's getting the call up with Moncada now hurt, rolled up on his hand today in the game, Moncada, and he has a bone bruise. And Berger's the guy who, not sure if you heard, he tore his Achilles in 2017. And then while rehabbing it about 6 months to a year later, he tore that same Achilles again, or ruptured his Achilles, and had not played minor league baseball in 3 years. He is hitting over 300 in AAA right now and just destroying the ball. So I mean, as good as a story as you can find. Happy for him, but we'll see how it works out. But now moving over to the NL Central with your Cardinals. I know you have some thoughts.
Okay, so obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, I think everyone is aware that I am in extreme danger of being blocked by Cardinals Twitter by the end of the season, and for a good reason, because the Cardinals have been absolutely god awful this in the month of June. I believe they were 12-20, if I'm not mistaken. I probably got the number wrong, but it was a losing record. Now, over the weekend, well, not really over the weekend, but the weekend series, I guess you could say in baseball terms, they lost 3 out of 4 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And if you look at the Pirates on paper and the Cardinals on paper, and how much the Cardinals have dominated the Pirates over the past couple of seasons, you think like, okay, the Cardinals should have easily took 3 out of 4 or possibly a split, because you just never know with divisional games. Three out of 4 for the Pirates. After the First game, comments came out from my man Tommy Two Bags, Tommy Edmond, and he basically called out the hitting strategy for the Cardinals going into each game, saying that there's a lack of preparation when it comes to the opposing pitcher and who they're going to face. I cannot tell you how disgusted I was reading that, because that tells me that you had no game plan going into every game that you've been playing, and ironically, these are games that are lost. So I'm gonna run down before those comments. I'm gonna run down the runs that the Cardinals have scored, and just I don't have a number. I'm just gonna run them
Mm,
down. Two, two, 9 in a 7 inning game, 0 in the next one. 1, 0, 0, 2, 4, 2, 0, 2, and 5. That is a horrible pattern for a lineup that features Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Dylan Carlson, Tommy Edman, and Yadier Molina. That is horrible. And you wonder, what is the strategy for this team? Is it if you see the ball hit the ball? It's not that simple. You know how deeply analytic the baseball is now. You can't just be ill prepared coming out the games, because everybody's going to apply their own analytics, and their analytics might be better than yours. You cannot come out ill prepared like that. And this is why I say I could never be a GM, because I promise you, if comments like that would have came out, the hitting coach would be fired. And as much as I like Mike Shildt, and I think he's a good guy, I think he's a miles away a better manager than Mike Matheny ever was, I would fire him. That cannot, under any circumstances, have it under your watch. Especially when you see the offense that is struggling the way it is, something's got to be wrong. But it took the player to address it. And that's one thing, and I know for a fact that John Mozeliak hates the most, because that is the reason why Tommy Pham is not a Cardinal anymore, because he called out the BS that goes on in the front office of the Cardinals. There's no urgency to fix anything. And he got traded because of it. Tom and Mozeliak said the same thing, just in lighter terms, about Tommy Edman saying that. Well, if he's not going to say it, who's going to say it? You? It's going to be the same thing. We know there's things we got to address. We know we got to get better in this and that. We just got to look over things. Look over what? Whatever you're looking over, it's not working. So if it took a player to call that stuff out, so be it. Someone needs to hold the team accountable, and clearly Mozeliak has not done that for years now.
yeah, and it's really surprising too, because I feel like baseball and hockey are the two sports you really don't see guys on a team calling out the front office, calling out the coaching staff consistently. I feel like you see that pretty, I would say, consistently, for lack of a better word, in the NBA and the NFL. And they get what they want, and they get the changes. And what do you know? Things change for the better. I mean, if the Cardinals keep moving forward with that, because, I mean, like you said, you have Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Yadier Molina. There's no reason that team, on average, from what you said, should be scoring over that span probably, 2.5 runs a game. There's absolutely no reason that should ever happen. And with how, I mean, yeah, the Brewers are arguably the hottest team in baseball right now, but I still think the Central is wide open.
Yeah.
So the Cardinals are definitely in an interesting spot. So what are you guys? One game under 500 right now, I believe.
One.
Even after having just an atrocious June.
Yep.
You're still not out of things in that division. And it's really interesting because, I mean, you have Alex Reyes, your closer right now, who I know, and they've said that they want him to start being a starter next year, I believe, 2022. I feel like I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
and it just, no, you don't want that?
Not at all. Not at all. Because I think now, I think it's all over baseball. There's no more dominant closers. And if you put him as a starter, who are you going to replace him with? Now, granted, Giovanni Gallegos is amazing. He's been good ever since the Luke Voigt trade, which people would say the Yankees won, by the way, but not really, because Gallegos has been very, very good.
Yeah.
and you have Jordan Hicks who can't stay off the injured list, and you would ideally want him to be the closer, but if he's not available, then what else are you going to do? Alex Reyes has found his footing and something that he could be dominant in, and the problem with him was he couldn't stay healthy. So the
Mhm.
fact that he's in a situation where he could be healthy and dominant, you don't mess with that.
No, that's fair. I do agree with that statement. Sox are kind of in that same thing with Michael Kopech right now at the Pen, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they deal with that. But do you right now, if you had to pick one way or the other, you want to buy, you want to sell, you want or three ways, I guess, buy, sell, or just stay put and just mire in mediocrity at the moment.
I probably would buy. Reason being is that right now, like you said, while things may seem really bad right now, the team's not out of it. Now, if there's one thing I've noticed about the Cardinals over the past couple of seasons under Mike Show, is that when that month of July hits, the tune changes.
Mhm.
They always seem to get, they always, like the Cardinals' trajectory has always been the same over the past full season. Now, I'm not counting last year because last year was totally different. But there's that time where they start out high, they hit a really cold stretch. And then maybe when July and August hits after the All-Star break, they take off. Now, the Brewers are a really good team. We're still questioned about the Cubs right now. As crazy as it sounds, because there was a time where like the Cubs were red freaking high. But one thing, but from a just a non-biased perspective, the Cubs are a streaky team, and I don't think you can rely on them going forward. Now with the Brewers seem like that team that is overachieving right now.
Mhm.
They're a
Would
good
agree.
roster, but still, like you're not sold on them. You're sold on a lot more teams in the National League itself. The Dodgers, the Padres, and even the San Francisco Giants. The Mets, you're more sold on them. You'll pick all four of those teams over the Brewers right now because you just don't know. But right now, the Cardinals are, I would say, they're not in a horrible situation. They're in a bad situation because they got themselves in that situation by just playing like absolute dog crap in June. But it's not over yet. But unfortunately for the Cardinals, if they're going to make the playoffs, you have to win the division. You're not going to win a wild card because the two wild card spots are going to be in the West,
Mhm.
most likely. So you have to absolutely have to get it together and win a division and hope for a collapse from Milwaukee.
Yeah, and the thing is with the Cardinals, they had such a bad June, and they're still only one game below 500. And like you had mentioned with the Brewers, they're
Yep.
overachieving. And you can honestly argue they're underachieving, in my opinion, just with how bad their hitting has been. But their pitching has been so good that I think it kind of balances out, in my
Yep.
opinion. Because I mean, water is going to find its level. I think it will be Cardinals Brewers at the end of the day fighting for the Central. I think the Cubs. I think they're officially dead after their weekend series. This past series, this series this week in Milwaukee, I think that was the signal that they're going to sell. And to be honest, I know we were talking about the sticky stuff, everyone using it, but it has been pretty apparent all year long with how good the Cubs bullpen, full of absolutely nobodies, and Craig Kimbrell has been. And since it's gotten called out, their bullpen has just been swirling down the drain. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call people out because it's everywhere, but it's the team that's been the most obvious, in my opinion. And I think, for your sake as a Cardinal fan, I think the Cubs will not be an issue moving forward. I think they're going to sell, and you won't have to worry about them for a few years.
Yeah, and it's I because a part of me because just for a little perspective because I delete this tweet right now. I delete the tweet because it just reminded me that I talk shit and the Cardinals just absolutely went down the drain. But I talk shit about the Reds getting absolutely clapped by the Phillies. And they followed that up with a four-game sweep of the Cardinals. So if I feel like if I rag on the Cubs too much, they're gonna go on a run. And truthfully, I'd rather the Brewers over the Cubs any day. I just do not. My heart cannot tolerate another run with the Cubs and everybody in national media being Cub fans out of nowhere. I can't do it. So um, I will not count them out. But boy, I mean, just scoring 7 runs in the first inning and giving up double-digit runs in a matter of 4 innings. How demoralizing is that? That is, I mean, I don't know if I don't know how the schedule looks right now, but you just have to hope as a Cubs fan that their division, that like their schedule going forward is soft because my goodness, how do you bounce back from that?
So, in my opinion, the Cubs have it worse than your Cardinals do heading into the break. They have a set with the Reds in Cincinnati this weekend, and I mean that could go either way. The Reds hit the ball just about as good as anyone right now with that lineup. Then they're at home with the Phillies, which Phillies are playing below their potential right now, in my opinion.
It's amazing how below their potential they're playing. It's amazing.
And then the Cubs and the Cardinals, you guys finish up with each other before the break. So it's going to be, I mean, whoever has the better week into the break is going to be in second place most likely. And I mean, your Cardinals don't have it horrible. You're in Colorado right now. You have the Giants, which the Giants is tough, and then you finish with the Cubs. But I still think that I would rather have the Cardinals set of games moving into the break than the Cubs.
Oh, 100%. And even the August schedule for the Cardinals is very, very, very winnable. And right now, like I guess I think a lot of people are saying that, hey, like the Cardinals is just not a good team this year. And I tend to agree with that. And just the way the roster is structured in terms of, you know, I would say more pitching because the lineup is very, very complete. It's just a bunch of underachieving right now. The pitching right now is the issue, and a lot of it has to do with injuries, and a lot of it has to do with guys that have been on the roster for too long. Carlos Martinez that just hasn't played for their potential, and they're gonna keep trotting him out there and see if they can get something out of him, which they're not gonna do. You can't rely on Adam Wainwright throughout the entire season. You can't rely on anyone in the rotation for that matter, because right now you have Way LeBlanc in your starting rotation. You have
that's tough.
I like KK has been good, but he walks about 3-4 batters a game. Like it's a rotation where it's just like, man, like you can't rely on a quality start from any of these guys because you just don't know. And and even with the bullpen, it's very, very young, and they have been one of the weakest spots of the Cardinals this year, other than the starting pitching. So right now, I feel the Cardinals are in a spot where they're not completely dead, but their season could easily be dead by the All-Star break.
That's fair. I think their heads are above the water still. And across the league, I think we're going to see a boom, a surge in hitting. I mean, first half batting average across the league has been the lowest since like 1940 something or whatever it was. And with the crackdown on the substances, I hate to say it, I think that we're going to start seeing the ball fly around the yard a lot more across the entire league. And that's going to benefit teams like the Cardinals who've been underachieving at the plate. So I'm cautiously optimistic for you and for them to bury the Cubs.
I'm hoping because if I'm being honest, this lineup is the best it's been in years. Like from 1 to 8, there's not well, there's only 2 spots I would say the Cardinals are lacking at the moment, and that's shortstop and center field. Because I mean, granted, Harrison Bader is an amazing center fielder, fielding wise, but he has been able to stay healthy. We've had a platoon with just not even a platoon, just a cycle of guys with Justin Williams and Lars Newbar and Lane Thomas, and I never want to see him in the majors again. But anyways, they have holes in their lineup, but for the most part, they have a lineup that everybody can hit. Everybody. So it's just confusing now. And hopefully, like the comments with Tommy, hopefully have changed things up. And granted, it has changed somewhat. Like the Cardinals have been scoring more runs since those comments have come out. It's just a matter of getting the timely hits. And when those come around, that's when the momentum is going to start to build and build and build. And you have to build something started in Colorado, because Colorado is not a good team right now. And this is the part of the schedule they have to take advantage. You took advantage of a bad Diamondbacks team. You have to take advantage of another bad team in Colorado.
Yeah, 100%. And before we wrap up the show, I just got some Goonery. U.S. sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson could potentially now miss the U.S. Olympics after testing positive for marijuana. Wow, 2021, and
And
we're still doing this. It make it make sense.
I was rooting so hard for this woman, a black woman that another black woman that's just gonna take over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, come on with this shit. I mean, what are we talking about? Marijuana, it's opening up in certain states, and we're gonna choose now to crack down on this stuff. I mean, come on, what are we doing, man? Oh
That
my
is,
gosh.
I've seen a lot of dumb stuff this week online, and that is
Ugh.
by far and away the dumbest and worst thing I think I've seen.
And I'm not gonna blame. I'm not gonna blame Mo Girl. I'm not gonna blame her because
No,
let's be real. You know how many athletes smoke marijuana and they just don't get caught because they have something that can cover it up. Like we gotta stop this, man. This is
mm,
ridiculous. This is total nonsense. And she's gonna miss it for some damn weed. Give me a break.
and I do honestly think it is, like, I hate to say it, a sexist thing too, kind of at the end of the day, because I've heard rumors that Billy Hamilton, Billy Hamilton, he's on the
Mm-hmm.
Sox now. Apparently, he's never played a game in the major leagues sober. He's always high out of his mind. That's why he's always smiling. That's like I
That makes
legitimately,
perfect
I
sense.
like I heard that the other day, and that is legitimately why he can't wipe the smile off his face. And it might be a rumor, it might be wrong, but I believe it. And I mean, you see it everywhere. You cannot tell me that guys across the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL too, you're gonna see people smoking weed everywhere. And
Of course.
I mean, who was it? Was it Phelps or was it Ryan Lochte like a decade ago who got caught smoking weed? And then it was the
It was
biggest news
Phelps.
story ever. Yeah, and that was ridiculous too. It.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for the Olympics though. I've been watching the trials. They're a ton of fun.
I haven't been able to watch anything, so hopefully I can catch something, but I just haven't been able to watch anything.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the start of the Olympics. We'll I don't know much about it, but we'll have to dive into that on a future episode. So that's it's gonna wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for sticking around this long. If you're still listening, and don't forget, like, share, subscribe, let your friends know, and we will see you next week.